Hey everyone, today is Friday, November 17th. It's time to go to Las Vegas. This will be the third time this year. Gonna play some 1-3 and some 2-5 no limit hold'em. Really looking forward to this trip. I'm hoping to have a good time, make some money, and I hope you enjoy the vlog. So I just finished at the Caesars. I played some 1-2 no limit hold'em. Played for about 3 hours. That's all I really wanted to play before I was going to check into the hotel. And got a couple hands I want to report. The first hand being I was in the big blind and I looked down at King 2 of Hearts. There are 6 limpers and I check. The flop is the King of Diamonds, 2 of Diamonds, and the Ace of Hearts. And it checks all around. So I'm sitting here in pretty good position. I've got a backdoor nut flush draw and I've got bottom 2 pair. The turn is the 9 of Hearts. Now lead out for 10 bucks, which might have been a little bit too heavy up. Sorry about the wind here, but I should have probably bet maybe on the $5 to $7 sizing based on the pot size. Anyways, it folds around to the guy in the cutoff who calls. And the river is the 3 of Hearts, so I have the nuts here. I go ahead and bet $25 and the cutoff folds. Well, you know, maybe I could have kept some people in had I bet a little bit smaller instead of that $10. Should have probably bet 5, maybe 7. But I guess at this point we'll never know. Maybe I could have won a little bit more money. On to the next hand. A little while later, maybe about an hour later, I'm under the gun and I look down at Ace of Spades and Queen of Clubs. I bet $10. And there are 2 callers. The flop comes Queen 10-7 and there are 2 diamonds. I go ahead and c-bet for $16 and there is 1 caller. The turn is an offsuit 9. So I'm kind of worried here that he's on a flush draw because he did call that $16 really quickly, and when somebody generally calls really quickly like that, you generally think they're on a flush draw or a straight draw. So I pegged them on a couple of diamonds here. So when the turn comes an offsuit 9, I lead out for $40 and he calls. So I'm a little bit surprised there. So at this point in time I'm thinking, okay, he could still be on a flush draw. Maybe he has a queen, could have a weaker queen. The river is a brick 2. And this time I check, hoping that I would instigate a bluff if he was on a diamond call. And he checks back, darn it. So he ends up flopping over Queen Jack. I had Ace Queen. I win the pot, but had to let out for maybe 25 bucks. That's probably a little bit more I could have won. But I did peg him on a drawing hand, so I guess the fault's on me. A good play by him. So that's it. Those are the only 2 hands I really had to report. Right now I'm going to go check into the hotel and try to take a nap, and then I think I'm going to Uber it over to the Wynn tonight. It's next to a, you know, the Wynn's relatively close to the convention center, and I know there's a big convention going on this weekend, so I'm going to play some 1-3 over at the Wynn tonight. At least that's the current plan, and we'll see how it goes. Okay guys, as you can probably see, it's the next morning. I stayed up pretty late playing some poker at the Wynn last night. Had a good time, won some money. Got a couple hands I want to go through, but first I want to talk about this one guy. He brought $1,000 to the 1-3 game and didn't understand a lick of English. So everyone had a really tough time saying that he could only bring 500 to the table. Luckily, one guy showed up, I don't know, maybe 10 minutes later and explained to him that he's got to put 500 of that 1,000 into his pocket. So, but anyways, this guy was splashing the pot. He was in just about every single pot you could think of. Perfect player to isolate. And as you can guess, my session went fairly well because of this player, and everyone else's session at the table went pretty well because of this player. He probably dropped, I don't know, maybe 2 or 3 grand just sitting at that table with us. I don't know what he was thinking. I guess he just wanted to lose it. But in any case, got a couple hands I want to go over. The first one, I looked down at pocket queens, and I'm in the cutoff position. The under the gun player plus the under the gun plus 1 bets 15, and I isolate and raise to $45. Everyone else folds and he makes the call. And this player is not the guy who didn't speak English. This was a short stacked player who'd also been splashing the pot a little bit as well. So the flop comes 10-8-10 rainbow. So my pocket queens are looking pretty good. He checks to me and I bet $60, putting him all in, and he calls, and the turn is a brick and the river is a brick. I show my queens and pick it up. On that hand, I pegged him on, you know, kind of ace-X type of hand. He could have had, you know, queen jack. He could have had, you know, smaller pocket pair. I think he was a little bit tilted. He didn't have much left. He had just lost a pretty sizable pot beforehand, so this was a perfect hand to isolate him. He could have had anything at this point, being on tilt. So, you know, I like my bet sizing there. I think that was a good play, and I ended up taking it down. Okay, in this next hand, I am in the middle position, and I look down at pocket eights. I raise the pot. I open the pot at $10, and the player that is sitting right behind me is the guy who doesn't speak any English, and he calls for $10, and everyone else folds. The flop is 10-9-4 rainbow. I c-bet for $15, and he raises to $35. And at this point, he's showing off so many tells, bluffing tells. It's about insane. He's leaning forward, looking at me on, you know, he's leaning forward on the table, just staring me down, staring at the cards on the table. The board, just throwing out so many tells. I end up calling for the 35. The turn is a 4. I check, and he checks behind as well. So that basically, he's telling me that he probably didn't have much. And the river was a brick, and I check, and he bets 55, again, showing off all these tells. Just leaning forward. It was a no-brainer call for me. I called, and he turns over queen 9 for the bluff, and my pocket eights win. Overall, it was a really good session. I made $273 on the session. I brought $300 to the table. Probably should have brought a little bit more, but it's okay. It ended up working out. So yesterday, Friday, my first full day in Vegas during this trip, I won $450 playing at Caesars and at the Wynn combined. So it was a really good first start to the trip. Today, I think I'm gonna go grab some breakfast, and I'm not quite sure if I want to go to Caesars or to Bellagio. I do want to watch some football. I don't like to bet that much on football. I'm just gonna probably sit down and maybe watch the first half of a game or maybe a full game, and then I know tonight I want to play some 2-5 at the Bellagio, but before then I'm not quite sure where I want to play. Maybe I do want to play at the Aria, so play some 1-3 over there, so I might do that. But regardless, all right, it's time to go get some breakfast and continue on the grind. Well, that was quite possibly the most card-dead 4 hours ever at the Aria. I have 0 hands to report to you guys. Sorry about that. I did manage to walk away with $110 profit, in for 300, out for 410. So that's good, but none of the hands were worth noting. There's just really small pots here and there. All right, well, I'm gonna go grab a bite to eat for lunch, and don't know what I'm gonna quite do from here. Just kind of play it by ear. Okay, let me recap what happened yesterday afternoon. It was a pretty disastrous mini short session over at Caesars. I quickly lost 2 buy-ins of $300 each in a matter of 45 minutes. Mostly because, well, the first one was I got it all in prior to the river, and of course the guy rivered. I had a 94% chance of winning by the river, but nope. I had top pair, top kicker. He had top pair, weak kicker, and his weak kicker made him his 2 pair on the river. So I lost a full buy-in there, rebought for 300, and it was the same story. So I figured after 2 buy-ins, that's probably enough. I don't want to spend any more at that table. That was the Caesars. That was rough. I lost everything that I had made on Friday in a matter of 45 minutes. Hey, you know, that's okay. I know variance happens. Last night at the Bellagio, I played 2-5. Sat there for several hours, maybe 4 hours, and I had 2 hands that were both king-queen suited. I was in the early position in both hands, and I open bet $15. The person directly behind me called $15 on both hands, and I had top pair, I guess not top kicker, but in one hand a king came on the board, and the other hand a queen came on the board. So I had top pair, really good kicker in both hands, and I was slow played. The first hand, when I had king-queen suited, the king came on the board, guy behind me just called me on all streets. He ended up having ace-king. You know, had he raised me, that would have put off all sorts of alarm bells. Second hand, I had king-queen suited, and I open bet for $15, and the guy behind me just called me all the way down. He ended up having pocket aces. That's when a queen came on the board. So I had top pair, decent kicker on the second hand as well. That's okay. Again, you know, I don't think I played it poorly. The 2-5 game was very, very nitty. So I ended up losing about a little over 350 in the 2-5 game, mostly on those 2 hands. So that was a pretty rough yesterday afternoon, early evening, into the evening. After that, I decided, after the Bellagio 2-5, I took about an hour or 2 break to have some dinner, a really late dinner, and then this happened. Yep, I decided to play 1-2 at the Flamingo, and I've got a few hands I want to go over. Okay, in this hand, I'm in the small blind, and I look down at King of Diamonds, Queen of Hearts. The middle position player bets $12. There are 2 callers, and I call, and the big blind folds. The flop comes Queen 10-3 rainbow. So I've got top pair, really strong kicker. This time I actually bet $30 into the pre-flop raiser. Kind of threw him off a little bit. He calls, and the other 2 players fold. The turn is a blank, it's a 2. I bet $60 and the middle position player calls. So I'm thinking he probably has, he could have jacks, he could have a weak queen, he could have maybe 9s, but the river comes a queen, and so I got trips. I end up putting out $100. The middle position player calls. I show my king queen and he mucks. I don't know what he had there. You know, I guess he had to have had like maybe queen jack, or just maybe a pair of jacks or a pair of 9s. I don't know why he called me down on that, but I'm glad he did. So that was a nice sizable pot right off the bat. Okay, in this next hand, I'm in the hijack and I look down at pocket aces. Yes. There are 3 limpers and the low jack raises to 15, and I 3-bet to $45, and the low jack is the only one that calls. The flop comes queen 9 6 rainbow. The low jack thinks very little and he jams all in for 105, and I immediately call. He shows pocket kings and I show my aces, and they end up being good, and I take this one down. So the night is getting off to a pretty good start. Okay, in this third hand, I look down at king of clubs, queen of clubs, and I'm in the middle position. There are 3 limpers and I raise to $15. The cutoff raises to $50 and I call, and I'm the only one that calls. So we're heads up to a flop, which comes 5 queen 5 rainbow. I check and he bets $50. I played against this opponent earlier and I wanted to play a little bit differently, so I raised to $150 in this spot, which threw him off. He went into the tank for a long time, and he ends up re-raising all in after about 4 or 5 minutes of thinking. So, which is odd. I figured he would probably snap call, or he would probably snap raise all in if he had pocket kings or pocket aces, maybe even, you know, a 5, like maybe he had ace 5 suited or something. But because he took a while to go all in, I called. I called his all in, and the turn is a blank and the river's a blank, and I flop over, I show over my king queen, and it's good. So I'm not quite sure, you know, again, what he was doing. I guess he was trying to get me off of the hand, or maybe he had a weaker queen. Who knows? He mucked. He didn't tell me what he had. So, but it was a really strong night at the Flamingo. I made all my money back at the Flamingo that I lost at Caesars and at the Bellagio. So this morning, I think I'm gonna hop into the Flamingo 1-2 game again. If it's not looking too good, I might go over to Bellagio. My plane flight is not till later tonight, so I've got some time. So, but here we go. It's back to the grind. Let's go do it. All right, just finished another session at Flamingo on this Sunday morning, early afternoon. Sat down for about 5 or 6 hours. A couple interesting hands. I didn't write them down. I don't know why I didn't, but one hand I did have jacks full of 4s. I had pocket jacks and small blind, and it was a pretty decent session. Bought in for 300 initially. Kept just draining chips. Didn't really get any good cards. Wouldn't get any good flops. Added on another 100, cashed out for $625. So it was pretty decent morning, early afternoon. And that's it for this trip. I'm getting ready to head to the airport in about an hour. And it was good. I think I made, my records, $753 on the felt. So a pretty decent trip. That covers pretty much all costs for the trip. But you know, I had fun. It was a great trip. I'm looking forward to doing it again.